Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Type 2 Fun, a podcast that cherishes the fun aspect of all the challenging stuff. Hi, this is Hiba, and I'm a medical graduate.
Hey everyone, this is Faizan and I'm a business professional. Today we're going to discuss some strategies for effective remote working. So let's get started. Hiba, why are we discussing this topic today?
I think it's really crucial to discuss about the strategies of remote working, especially given the situation of a global pandemic. Many sectors have adapted to run their systems remotely, starting from educational institutions to healthcare institutes and various other institutes. So basically, this has brought a dramatic shift of working style, and it has affected the work performance of many individuals. So basically, a company named Buffer, it conducted a survey of about 2,500 remote individuals, and they found that about 22% individuals struggled with unplugging from their work, and 19% experienced loneliness. About 17% had issues with collaborating and communicating with their team and coworkers. Other than that, I think about 8% had difficulty staying motivated. So these figures are very significant, and these struggles, it looks like these struggles are real. Therefore, we do need a solid strategy for effective remote working to produce quality results and achieve balance in our personal lives and the professional life.
It makes sense. With the changing dynamics, we should kind of learn to be as effective as we can, right? Like we had to go through that experience when offices were kind of built. So, okay. Tell me about yourself. What challenges do you face, working from home on a daily basis?
I think for me personally, taking the first step and setting the pace is most challenging.
Right. So, yeah, I guess you would have had I had a routine before all of this COVID-19 stuff happened, right? I'd get up, have breakfast, and then commute, and then get to work. Now it's like I'm getting up, rolling out of bed, and onto a desk.
Yeah, that's what many people are facing, like a rapid or dramatic change in their routines. And that's really affecting the way people function.
So how do we develop a strategy now, right, of working remotely properly and effectively?
So basically, if we can categorize this strategy into 4 components, so here's how it would look like. So the first thing is habits. The next thing would be improvising workspace. Thirdly, it would be collaboration and communicating with team workers. And finally, it's hobbies.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on, let's talk about habits first, right? So what can we do from a habits perspective?
When we talk about habits, so what is habit? Basically, habit is something, it's basically a routine or a practice that you do regularly and so often that it becomes part of your subconscious, and then you don't have to think about it. And we always, like since childhood, we always preached that forming good habits is really essential for being successful. So yeah, we can't deny the power of good habits, and it definitely is one of core strategy to developing a good system when you're working remotely. And recently I was reading a book as a part of a book club, and it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this is a really interesting book because in this book, it just basically talks about how to build good habits and stuff. And what I really found interesting is that the author presented a graphical model, and it showed that if we try and take initiative to get better 1% each day for up to 1 year, by the end of the year, we'll have improvement of about 37%. Whereas if we worsen our habits by 1% each day for 1 year, then our performance and self-improvement graph is just going to decline up to 0. So even small changes can mount up to bigger differences. So that's where the habit comes into the play.
Right. So it's like you got to take small steps, right, in order to get greater returns or exponential return.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
That's true.
That makes sense.
So,
Okay. So how about some constructive things? Like what can I do? What kind of habits should I be building now in order to work more effectively?
Yeah, so in my opinion, first of all, designing a to-do list beforehand and doing like task prioritization is really key to start up the day and set up the pace of the day, so you don't get derailed in the series of events.
Makes sense. You want to manage your time and your day properly. Okay.
And the next thing is that we need to identify our hours of maximum productivity and to see if they are overlapping with our work hours. Ideally, it's going to be morning, but it can be altered based on personal preferences and the flexibility of office working hours. So that's another thing, because we want to make sure that our hours of maximum productivity are overlapping with our working hours.
Yeah, it makes sense. If somebody's a afternoon person or an evening person, obviously to the extent that their work allows them that flexibility, they should work in that environment or in within that time period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And other than that, I think power breaks play a very important role, and it can increase the efficiency or the performance. Sometimes people argue that taking power naps or power breaks are just like wasting time, and it may look like it's wasting time for a shorter period of time. But if you look in the hindsight, it actually enhances the quality of your work. And by power break, it can be anything. It can be a quick nap, it can be gentle stretches or yoga, or it can be meditation, or even a quick walk down the road. So I think we should not understate the power of
A break.
yeah, definitely.
No, it makes sense. I experienced that too. It's like I'm looking at something or doing something for a very long period of time, but then, you kind of zone out after a certain period of time and your concentration kind of goes down. So if you go away, even if it's for like 2 minutes and come back to it, then you're kind of just restarting in your mind, right? And you're restarting the thought process again. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess one of the big things of just working from home, and especially trying to build habits, is like when you're working from home, there's a lot of distractions, right? So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, definitely. Lots of people talk about it. Like the biggest struggles everyone faces nowadays is distraction, especially through social media. And
Right.
yeah, there's a concept and there's a theory that I read in my school, and that's called distraction conflict theory. And it says that the distractions do impair the performance of a certain task, and it also reduces the likelihood of completing that task. And when you are distracted by social media or other distractions in your environment, then when you go back, like after experiencing that interruption, when you go back to your primary task, you need a longer recovery period to achieve that same level of attention. And in the shorter period, it might not look significant. It might just feel like nothing has happened. But over time, it does create stress in your body, and it affects your happiness level. And that type of stress is called techno stress. So ideally, I think it would be best to set aside a certain time for checking out emails and social media, or maybe you can do it during your power break. But at least you'll have a designated time where you are checking social media and not being interrupted during your work.
Right. You're losing efficiency because if you decide to pick up your phone to check, whatever notification you just got,
Yeah.
right, you're losing your thought process, your chain of thoughts, and then you kind of have to restart from the beginning.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Right.
So, Bazan, do you have any ideas or like any suggestions of how we can improve our productivity?
One thing you can do is have a clutter-free space or not have so much disorganization. And both of these things, I mean, in the physical world and in the virtual world, right? So a lot of people have, if you look at their desktops, they have like 1,000 files on their desktop and it just feels so overwhelming, right? Even just visually looking at it, it might be that they have a system in place and that's why it's all there. But if somebody else comes and looks at their screen, it's just visually you feel, I mean, mentally and emotionally, you do feel something, that something's wrong, right? So you want to do housekeeping, whether in the virtual world or the real world, as much as possible. That's, I think, one thing. And that'll help you create habits, right? It'll help you with your file organizations and just organizational skills in life in general, right? Another thing you can do is, exercise, do physical activity. Obviously, you want to be mindful of the guidelines that are present in your geography, right? So if you can go run outside, then go run outside or take a walk. If you can, then maybe just do something inside. Yeah. Right? There's more than one way of doing any given task. Okay, so we talked about habits. Why don't we talk about workspace now, right?
Yeah, sure.
So let's see, what's kind of important when you think about workspaces?
Yeah, so when we are working remotely, we don't have a designated space like we have in the office and all the equipment. So I think if we can create a similar designated workspace, even if you're working remotely from home, then I think it would be really helpful in bringing that efficiency level. And it does not matter that you have like a small or a large workspace. It is based on your available resources. Other than that, I think it's also important to focus on comfortable ergonomics. It can be a one-time investment, but it can go a long way, because I think if you have a good chair with a good lumbar and neck support, and then it can really help you with working long hours at your desk and produce quality results.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I just think that having a designated space is really important, because it will create a boundary between your personal life and your work life. And
Right.
as you're working from home, this boundary gets blurred, because you're working at the same place, you're eating at the same place, and you're just chilling out at the same place,
No,
right?
that makes sense. Yeah, like analogous to that example is just, when I go to my office, I know that when I'm walking out of my office, it's like work's done, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
mentally I know that I've clocked out of work the
Mm-hmm.
moment I walk out the doors, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that obviously if I need to work something from home, I can still do it later on, but like mentally I've clocked out, and
Yeah.
that distinction doesn't happen at home.
So, Faizan, can you tell me that what apps or what resources do you use to personally manage your workspace while you're working from home?
Yeah, so I think a couple of apps that I use is one of them is for focusing, right? And you need an app to kind of help you focus.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
there's a lot of apps, right? There's one called Forest, which you can set a timer and a tree grows, right? So the better you do, the fuller the tree and that kind of stuff. There's another app that I use called Tide. It tracks obviously how long you focus for, right? And if you get distracted, for example, you picked up your phone and checked something out, it records that. But it also provides meditative sounds and stuff to help you focus. That's from a focus perspective. And then you have project management tools, right? There's apps, obviously, but there's programs as well on the computer that you can use to kind of manage your tasks or your whatever you need to get done, right? Your to-do list and that kind of stuff. ClickUp is a free software. They have a free version that you can use. Notion is another one. So they're both examples of project management tools that you can use personally and for your teams as well.
Yeah, personally, I've also used Forest, and I think it's a wonderful way to focus. And it also creates, as you're building more trees, it also creates like a positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as you're growing trees, you also get like positive reinforcement to work more and stay more focused.
Yeah,
So it's
it's like
wonderful.
you're gaining something, right? By
Exactly.
focusing, your reward is, even though it's a virtual tree, it's a
Yeah.
tree.
So, so next, I would like to talk about collaboration, because I think when we are working remotely, it's hard to collaborate, and it's hard to communicate with our team and coworkers. But we should make a point and set expectations with our coworkers. And I think it's really important, because when we have clear communication and when we have set up expectations, it really gives us the comfortability to unplug even after the working hours. Because if you're not communicating, then we always feel under pressure that we are not performing well, or we are not delivering as much as it is expected.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Setting expectations is, it's critical in a normal office setting, but it's even more critical when you're working remotely. So everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. Other than that, like when we are working remotely, we also have this, especially in the current times, we also tend to feel lonely. So I think we can use different tools to engage with our coworkers. And it can be group chats, or like Microsoft Teams or Slack, or any other visual collaboration tools, to keep an engaging atmosphere, and have like even casual chats and stuff. So it does bring that energy level.
I think the last point we wanted to discuss was hobbies, right? In my mind, hobbies are important, right? Just from your personal mental state perspective. Because if you're working all the time and you're not doing anything else besides work, you'll eventually feel burnout. So I think
Yeah.
it's important that even if you're, remote working, you take some time to pursue hobbies, whether you had them before or maybe start some new ones. It'll impact your overall behavior and it's good for your mental health. Humans, we're social animals and we require social interaction, right? Obviously, we have to limit that in the current circumstances, but once we kind of get out of the lockdown periods, hobbies don't have to be too crazy, right? It might be just as simple as, going to the park and meeting people in your neighborhood or, playing sports, joining some sort of a recreational league and that kind of stuff. It's all to help stimulate your mind, keep your mental health in check and avoid burnout. Do you want to wrap this up? Kind of take us through a high level what we discussed?
So basically, as we discussed, there are four main subcategories or sub-strategies that I would like to further highlight. So first is the habits, where we have to identify the shortcomings of our personal system and make little improvements, even if it is 1% every day. The next is improvising our workspace and making sure that we are working at a designated space in a clutter-free environment. The next is collaboration and communication. So clear communication and setting up expectations with our co-workers is really very important. And lastly, pursuing hobbies. It's really important and crucial to pursue hobbies, to prevent burnout. And I think it's equally important to understand that the outcomes of following these strategy won't be immediate. But I think if we start following these strategies, these simple strategies, then over the course of time, like due to a positive compounded effect, we are going to see outcomes in our life and how we are feeling and managing work remotely.
No, that makes sense. You take small steps in order to have a greater gain compounded down the road. That's why we like type 2 fun, right? As a concept. It's you not so much suffer, but you get through the hard stuff, right? In order to kind of look back and cherish the outcome
That's true.
on the other side. No, I think that's a good way of looking at the remote work situation and improving it. The process might be, difficult at times, but we just got to make sure that we implement the small changes in our personal system so that we adapt to things quicker and easier.
Hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some valuable insights. Tune in next Friday for our next episode. Take care until then.